My name is Dayle Adams of Planning Ahead of Time, and today I'm speaking with Nikki. Nikki, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Nikki Warrilow, and I'm a psychic medium, clairvoyant, and I've got a business called Phoenix Rise Spiritual Journeys. I'm a mobile and online. Yeah.
Well, you and I first met actually at a village fair where I was walking around and I was looking at the crystals because at the time you'd got your stand with your crystals, and you were trying to sort of talk to me about the crystals. I said, "Well, actually, I'm looking. I'd like a reading, really." And you were, "I'm a medium." Handed me your great. So we actually first met when you read for me, and
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it was there's no such thing as a coincidence in my opinion. And I wasn't there as a medium that day as a psychic medium. I have a love for crystals and I'm always happy to talk about crystals if you ever want to do that, different story. But I strongly believe that everybody crosses your path for a purpose. There really is no such thing as coincidence. And here we are a couple of years down the line, now in different situations and working together, but in a completely different capacity.
Which is quite strange, really, isn't it? Because it then obviously came to discussion that I also did medium readings and have for years. And we've ended up at psychic events together where we didn't know
Yeah,
that the other one was actually was going to be there working as a medium as well. So psychic
yeah.
and we were both doing different tables.
It's a wonderful connection. And I think when you can come across people that are like you, your energy bonds together, it creates something bigger. And that's what mediumship is. It's about reading energy, and energy can accumulate. It can divide. We can change the color of it. We can change the image of it. We can change everything about energy, and it becomes stronger when it's formed together. But you can't destroy it. You cannot destroy it. And that's what we do is we read energy, those of the living and those of the past.
Well, yesterday I did a reading and talking about energy. This proves it to me because it was the first time ever that it was there were horses in spirit. And the lady said she had two horses, and I described both horses. And obviously, it's not that they were giving any, so they weren't speaking anything, they weren't saying anything to me, but they showed me themselves to the point that I literally described the colours, the colouring around their feet, what the tails were like, what headwear they got on, even one of them's field where the gate was. And this lady was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then I spoke about the other horse, the differences between the two. And you think, even I sort of finished the reading thinking, okay, that's
Wow.
pretty incredible. I didn't expect that. I mean, you and I, we both have these experiences, so I'm sure there's plenty that you've had as well, like that.
Yeah, so horses themselves, sometimes we might see them, and actually, there isn't an actual real existing horse. If you see a horse around somebody, sometimes in spirit, it can mean courage, determination, drive. Horses have something majestic about them. And yeah, similar circumstances. I've read for somebody before now who didn't have any horses, but I brought through this little crickety old pony, and she said, actually, my best friend who lives in Scotland just lost a pony. And I basically said, please let her know this pony's okay and it's with another horse. I left that reading. 2 hours later, I got a message. She called her friend in Scotland and said, "Your horse came through in my reading." And she said, "Well, it's really funny you say that because whilst you were having your reading, this lady who's an artist was drawing her own horse in the spirit world as I was delivering this reading, hundreds of miles away in the Midlands, and out came this picture of a horse in the spiritual realm. Just fantastic. Communication is with everything, energy as well. And this morning I read for somebody and I saw her children. Okay, I saw her children, but you know what, Dale? I wasn't told if they were boys or girls. I saw their soul. I was told all about them and how bountiful one of them is and how sensitive the other one is, but I did not see a carcass. I cannot tell you now if these were boys or girls because I was not meant to know that information. But I knew everything else. I saw energy. not anything else. It's tremendous. Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, again, obviously, this is about planning ahead of time, and I wanted to speak to you, one, because we're great friends now, and as I say, we work together, but we also just go out together.
Yes.
Realise sometimes the comfort that can be brought to people after they've lost somebody, but equally to the person themselves. So I see again was talking to you about the client that I had who no longer
Yeah.
is dying. One, because
Yes.
she's had communication from those who have already gone and are already
Yeah.
it, and because of that, knows that there's something else, and so now
Yeah.
herself doesn't fear death anymore. And she said, it's made me just accept that death will be, but my spirit will go on, my energy will still be. And I think that
Absolutely, it will.
that it gives people living that, it gives them the communication, but it also gives them that feeling of it's okay, if you like.
Yeah, I think that when people come for a reading and they specifically want to hear from a loved one, I think people have lots of different expectations of that. We also need to remember that spirit, that they're different in the spirit world just as much as they are here. They have free will. They will be themselves. Some of them might have colourful language. Some of them might have their own little habits and whatnot. And they're the things that are actually important, not necessarily what they died of, how many children they had, whether they wrote a will in the spirit world. They will tell you things that you didn't expect to hear. And lots of people come with an expectation of a date of death, exactly what they died from and things like that. And actually the proof in the pudding is things like, don't eat that pasta that's in the fridge.
What are you saying about this? This is brilliant.
Why is my picture not on the wall anymore? You know, that kind of thing. I know you're not sleeping and I'm with you. So it's also, I think it's really important that people do realize that when it's authentic, yes, spirit will only tell you what they feel you need to know, those quirky little bits about them. And there's the comfort. That's what brings comfort. And I think when you lose people, ultimately, the more people you lose, the less scared you become of passing away because you see it. It sometimes becomes a normality to people, which is really heartbreaking that people do have to go through that. But the comfort is, and the knowledge is that spirit are listening and they're there. And I can tell you things that you would have spoken about yesterday. Yeah, what you fed your children yesterday, because spirit are proving a point that they are there and that they are with you. And the comfort that that can bring to people, not just about dying themselves, but knowing that their mom saw that tradition that they carry on at Christmas. Yeah, or she was there at that wedding day or at that birthday party. It's brought me more comfort than I could ever imagine. I strongly believe that I probably would not be living if it wasn't for being spiritual and for being a medium and the experiences that I've got. I owe my life to spirit, genuinely.
Yeah, well, I understand that because I know some of the backstory with it all. But yeah, I find that it incredible, really, the things that you do get told and the things that are said. But it is so that people know that it's them. I mean, I can find myself literally talking a certain way and talking about accents and
Yes.
comments about, oh, I mean, I was doing one recently and I was like, okay, he's literally sat in the pub and this dog is under the chair. And they're like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Because I said, the dog's never on a lead. He just walks with him everywhere he goes. And they're like, yeah, that's right. And I was saying about what he drank and da da da. And you think you're showing somebody's personality as well. And I think
Absolutely, it's unique.
yeah, and that's what's lovely. But then I also, your comment about expectation to me is huge because we can't determine who comes through. And I've done readings before where people expect somebody else and they're in denial. So I would be talking about something, they're like, no, I don't know who it is, I don't know who it is. To the point that you're giving so much information that they eventually go, oh my God, that's so-and-so. I didn't think they'd come through. I was expecting somebody maybe close.
Absolutely.
And at first you're sort of thinking, look, I'm not making this up, but
I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy.
they expect the person that they want to hear from. And that isn't always the way it is. It's what they need.
I think going off that as well, you might get somebody's mom and dad who were divorced and they go, well, I don't know why they're here. They're divorced. They're not there for themselves. There's only a love language. Okay. We don't, here on this plane, we don't have bills to pay, mortgages to deal with, pensions, funeral plans. We don't have any of that anguish. We don't take any of that with us. And when they do come, it does not mean to say that they've skipped off together over a rainbow bridge after the reading. They are simply here for you. For you, and that should also bring comfort that sometimes people fear leaving this world of who they're going to see over the next. Yeah. But again, we don't take malice with us, right? It's all for love. Everything that comes through love and healing and a place of guidance. And some, we're not just shown these things either. We see them, we smell them, we feel them, we hear them, you know, and I can't, gosh, I couldn't think of any more proof that life goes on.
Yeah.
And I also believe that I speak to a lot of spirit that strongly feel that in this world they weren't good enough. But where they are now, they are released and they can be there for people in a completely different way and sometimes a better way, in their opinion, for their loved ones. And that
as well is they don't always present in the way that we expect either. So
no.
my mom at the end of her life couldn't walk properly. She obviously had the disability through dementia. But when she first presented to me in spirit, she came through as if you like, she looked the way I remembered her when I was in my late 20s. And
yes,
seeing her like this, and I suppose what then happened is actually she came to my best friend in a dream. And
wow,
my friend nearly didn't tell me. And then when we'd been together a while, and I mean, we'd been together like a couple of hours, and all of a sudden she said, your mom was in my dream the other night. Anyway, then she started to talk about my mum and what happened in this conversation. And it was a conversation with my mum, myself, and I. No,
yeah.
my mum, myself, and me, myself, and I. It's all about me.
Sounds like a film.
with my best friend. And she said, but she looked like this. And she literally described my mum as this younger person that she was. And I said, that's how she is now in spirit. That's how she presents. So I think sometimes when we say, oh, they look like they're, you know, they're about in their late 20s, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's when they died, because it's how we then see them and they can present differently. I mean,
that energy of how she presents herself to you in the visual form will be the energy that was always in there all along. Regardless of any physical problems, regardless of how she looked and perception's amazing as well. And dreams, if you can learn to release your subconsciousness a little bit, you'll be really surprised. And if you ever get somebody come to you in a dream, know that to be a real visit.
Yeah.
You can't get a better visit than a dream visit. How wonderful.
Again, you were telling me a story recently about somebody that you read for not long before they died and how actually that has played out. Are you happy to share it?
So I absolutely am. Yeah. There's a couple of things about this story that I kind of need to talk about first, and that is this reading was a raffle prize. Okay, it was bidded for at a golf club by the lady's husband. So that's the first thing, is it was a prize. So there was no exchange for this reading. Secondly, the reading was cancelled at first and then rearranged for a few weeks later. Now, because this reading was a raffle reading, you know, normally I'm a little bit more iffy than when it comes to rebooking, but it was a raffle reading, so no problem. And I only read for this lady back in January, and I read for her and for her mum. She asked me if she could record the reading, which is not a problem for me either. I'm more than happy for people to record a reading, as long as it's out my way. Otherwise, I find myself looking at it all the time. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice, do they? Yeah. And I spent a good hour and a half with this lady and her mum. And during the reading, I brought through familiar family members with stern proof and evidence that it was them and that they were in spirit and that they were okay. 8 minutes into the reading, I mentioned that I had visions of somebody with a poorly head. And I couldn't at the time understand if this was spirit talking to me about their own head or if somebody was living had a problem with their head. And the mom said to me, she said, "Oh, my friend, she's losing all her hair. She's losing her hair's fallen out." And I said, "No, no, no, this is not that." And then I went on to say potentially something almost a stroke or a bleed or something along those lines, and they couldn't take it. They couldn't take it. So I went to dismiss it because sometimes that always happens. We can get the wrong channel with the wrong people next door, some spirits, you know. And spirit said to me, "No, take note." And with that I repeated that, take note, take note. Anyway, I left there and everything was fine. Although I do remember both the mum and her mum had the same future card, which to me was because she cared for her mum. So their future was almost together, you know, it was together. So I assumed that this was why they had the same future card. About 2 weeks later, after that, I had a message from another family member to say that they wanted to hear this lady's voice. So they played back my recording. And 2 days after I read for this lady, she went into hospital with a bleed on the brain. And subsequently, there was a tumour. There was an underlying tumour. There was already an existing issue in her head, and there was nothing that could be done for her. And I was almost frustrated. So I almost thought, why would spirit put me in a place in front of a lady that's going to pass away 2 days later? Because I don't deliver death news. Okay. I don't see it. I don't deliver it. I'm not God. It's not my job. Okay. So I don't predict death and I will not predict a birth because again, that's not my job. There's a divine and we don't cross that line. Okay. We don't cross the line. And I was a bit frustrated, but actually in the message that was sent to me, was thank you for giving my mum comfort in the last 2 days of her life. She knew that her stepdad was waiting for her. She knew that she could still be around family, even though she's not here in the physical form. And if they hadn't have recorded the reading, her daughter would never have heard her voice again. And it was a set of circumstances that astounded me. And it took me a while to come to terms with. But I do understand. I understand, you know. And that, although it's a harrowing story and really sad, because some of my clients I remember like yesterday. On the other side of the coin, I know that she'll know where to go.
Right back to what you said at the start, I don't believe there's such a thing as coincidence. I think we're drawn to people. I think people are put in our path.
Yeah.
I really do feel that, you know, anybody watching this will be looking, you've got two mediums there, we're both sat having a conversation. Some will be drawn to you, some will be drawn to me.
Yeah.
You'll be cowed and think, oh, I'll never do that. And that's absolutely fine, because to me, it is all about who you're drawn to, who you're connected with, because you will be put to the right person if you follow the correct guidance.
I will be with people that need me. Nobody comes into my inbox or on my phone because they don't need me. There's lots of mediums out there. We all work very, very differently in our execution, in our beliefs and things like that. But nobody comes to you because they don't need you. And again, you will find that before you have it, when you book a reading, you will find you might feel more spirit signs before that reading comes in. You might get a feather. And I don't mean us, I mean the person receiving the reading. So that when we do read for them, we go, well, did you get that feather? Did you find that penny? Oh, you lost your car keys. Yeah. And all these things start happening because spirit have orchestrated everything. They've orchestrated the minute of them watching the video right the way through to the very first minute of that reading. And I feel safe because of that. I feel safe. I know that I will never be in a position where I feel unsafe because spirit They put me where I'm needed, and they will with you as well. And with, don't ever be scared. Don't ever be scared to go with gut and instinct. That's what I want to say to people. And if you want a reading, or if you want to delve into things yourself, or you want further information on dreams, coincidences, paranormal, investigate it. Always investigate it, because it's fun. It's fun, and you can learn so much.
One of the best I've got with that is I've got somebody coming to my house at the time, reading the following day. So in the evening, I was closing up before I went up to bed, and as I shut my patio curtains, I literally heard this male voice say, "Hi, my mum's coming to see you tomorrow. I died on a motorbike." And I remember thinking, this has never happened before. I've never like this. It was so clear, and I just said, "Oh," which would freak a lot of people out. I went, "Oh, okay, thank you, that's great." And the morning, I've never met the lady, and I opened the door and I said, "Hi," introduced myself, and I said,
Yeah.
"Because I know you're here to speak to your son." And she just, looked at me, quite got out, and I said, "Yes, well, he was here last night. He was a bit early."
Been there.
I said, at least I know that everything's going to go very well today, because he was here the evening before. And I think we do get things like that, don't we? And it's really
But
nice.
similarly, there are spirit out there as well that we don't want. Okay, there's good and bad in every realm. Okay, and there are in the spirit world as well, the spirit that weren't people. So that's another thing. I've gone to paranormal investigations, and I know there's a spirit there. I know that they're causing trouble and they're not wanted, and they've done everything they can to get me lost, put my ABS lights on my car, all sorts of things. And I go, I'm coming, I'm coming. And this proves a point. Spirit know. They know way before you do what's going to come and what's meant to be. And the trick is, it's an onion. I think people think they have one reading and they get everything that they need to know, and it doesn't work like that either. Spiritualism, we peel away the layers, and it's a journey, and it's similar to counseling, don't you think?
I think it really can be at times. I think people can get so much from it, and it can be so helpful for people. And people maybe misunderstand a little bit about what we do, but
there's clairvoyance, mediumship, intuitive guidance. Over the last couple of years, my clairvoyant side to things it's come a lot stronger. Not because I've asked for it, but what I have noticed is now a lot of my readings are mediumship, tarot, and clairvoyance, because I get a lot more people go, no, within a few weeks down the line, no, you'll never guess what. So we're all on a learning journey ourselves, not just the people that we're reading for. You and I, every reading that we do will have its own place and its own right, and it builds on us and our confidence as well. And how many things do you think you should have said and you didn't because we weren't brave enough?
Well, yeah, the other day, I remember they told me that the lady's daughter had autism, and I kept saying about the fact that one of the children, and then I started to be more specific, and I said, and the daughter has more difficulties, and therefore she wasn't expected to get to where she got to, and then agreeing with it. And then afterwards she said, "Oh well, yes, my daughter has autism." I said, "I knew that, but I just didn't say it." And instead, I tiptoed around it. I was using words that, things a little harder for her. She finds it more difficult, she with learning and things. And I thought, they told me what it was.
Yes, because spirit are to the point.
Say the word, and then the moment she said it, I thought, I don't know why I just didn't say that.
Yeah. Short and sharp. I would rather give 15 minutes of my time and have short, sharp messages that mean something than spend 5 minutes trying not to offend somebody. They come to us for purpose, and we have to be the mouth of spirit. And it brings great comfort. It does to me, it has to my loved ones that have been passing away. And it's painful for us sometimes, but it's always, always a pleasure to deliver messages from spirit to those that are living, to prove that there is an afterlife, because I wouldn't be able to see it if there wasn't. It's an honor. In fact, it's an absolute honor, and I am grateful.
Yeah, me too. I love that work. I know I do other work as well, whereas
I don't.
It is full-time work. I do other work, and obviously with this sort of planning ahead and trying to help people with end of life, because the way I look at it is because of my views and my knowledge of the afterlife and the spiritual world, I've got a different view on helping people plan for their end of life, because I'm
Yes.
a different mindset, which means I can laugh and joke with people a little bit about things and maybe make it a little bit more light-hearted. So for me, I try and bridge the gap. I'm bridging the gap
Well,
between spiritual.
I actually speak to many of people in spirit that had plans. They had plans and it didn't happen because lots of people that I've come across have worked and worked and worked. Still, they're like 75. They have this dream. They've saved it all for their children, and then they've planned another 20, 30 years in advance. But Dale, they didn't plan to die.
But that's what people need to do, because it's the one.
Exactly. Exactly. I read for a girl once, her dad, he'd retired and he'd sold his house, sold all his belongings, and he flew out to go buy a new property. Died whilst he was out there. Yeah. He hadn't planned for any of that. And then everybody in the UK is then dealing with that. You know, I come across a lot of people that maybe wanted a simple funeral, and then they'll say to me, Cyril, what did you buy all those flowers for? Did that money go to charity? You know, I've had people come to me because they want to know if their dad wanted to be buried with his Catholic family or cremated with his wife's wishes, which was their stepmom. Their family were completely torn. A Catholic Irish family, his mum and his brothers, and then the stepmom who says, no, he told me he wanted to be cremated.
They
And
have.
they've asked me to bring him forward. And all I heard was, I want to go home. That to me is the grave with his mom and his, you know, he was born Catholic. So therefore, for me and the way he was coming across to me, that's where he wanted to be. And that's the decision that they made. And it caused ruckus. It did. But it's not about them at the time. It's about the person's wishes. And I think that people need to be stronger with what it is that they want at the end of their life, because I believe that when a spirit gets their closure, they're also more at peace than the people that are living as well.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think it's so important. And again, I know I'm bringing up my mom, but that's where planning ahead of time came from.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't know. We didn't know. So we had to guess a lot of it at the end. And the way I just viewed it is, if I would be happy with it, if it's what I would want, then I can at least live with my choices. But we didn't know a lot of it. And I think
No,
it's so important now. No, my children do. You've got to look at making sure things are in place, because actually your loved ones are the ones who are going to deal with it. So I consider it
absolutely.
to our loved ones to tell them what we want. You know,
I tell you what,
want.
before we go, I know we're pushing on time, but before we go, I have to tell you, here's a perfect example of somebody who didn't plan ahead. I read for a girl, she was a skeptic, a complete skeptic. I brought her granddad through. He died a year before. Yeah, he died unexpectedly. I brought him through to the reader and I said, your granddad's talking about Coventry Building Society. I don't know why, but he's talking about Coventry Building Society. 3 weeks later, she messaged me. We got in touch with Coventry Building Society. He had money in an account for every grandchild. And when they told me how much was in it, I nearly fell over. She says, it's life-changing. And if it weren't for you, where would that money have gone? Who would have benefited from it? And he saved his whole life for them and they didn't know. And she was a skeptic, but she listened. And because she listened, he got his wishes. And she finally realised that there was planning for her the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely, isn't it? But as you say, especially now, and it's getting worse. I've just been working with a client and everything's paper, and we've been able to find a lot of things. But if it was digital and people didn't have the passwords, it's a whole different ballgame now.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're running out of time. We've gone way over, but we definitely need to do.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I hope people enjoy it though. I hope it's that, you know, it's an interesting subject and we can talk all day, but I really hope that it's good content anyway. It's been a good conversation.
I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, so you know it's been great. If people want to get hold of you, Nikki.
Yeah, so I am predominantly on Facebook. It's Phoenix Rise Spiritual Journeys. It's got a family tree as the logo. My contact details are on there. You can email me. I do online videos, face to face, big group bookings as well. You can text me, WhatsApp me, or email me.